Hello everyone, my name is Michael and I am talking to you from the verse. Now if you are not aware of what the verse is, I recommend that you go to my website at rewritingtheverse.com, and there you will find all the information you need to inform you of what the verse is, how it came to be, along with a lot of written and video updates to give you even more details. So I recommend you go check that out. I am a past life regressionist, and I have the ability to not only do regressions but to also do rewrites, which basically means at the end, if it's warranted, I do have the ability to rewrite the ends of past life regressions, whether they be personal or for another person or for a collective. So one of the things I've been thinking about is how to expand on my conversation for the verse and for my skills, and how the past life regressions can be shared on a bigger level on the videos. Unfortunately, it really doesn't make much sense to try to record a full length rewrite. It takes usually an hour plus, and it's not very exciting other than sitting with a one-on-one person. So I've written down some of them on the website, so you can find some very, very specific details of some of the ones I've done, especially for Lemuria. That is one group I have done, and Atlantis, that I have done some specifically and written them up on the website for you to read about. But what I'm being guided to do now is to share some that, like for instance, the one I'm going to share today is actually one I did for myself. And I'm only going to share it because it seems to have a theme for the entire collective, I believe. And so that me sharing my experience may actually shed some light on your own. And that's why I'm choosing to share this. As I was thinking about this process, and I actually have a reader friend, Arcana Star, who does tarot card readings on YouTube, and I find it interesting. I mean, most tarot card readers are telling people, well, they might be telling people about the past, but oftentimes they're really there to share about the present and the future that they see in the cards. Well, for me, I'm a past life regressionist / rewriter, and I wasn't quite sure how this was going to be applicable to a video setting. But I do see that this recent past life regression I did for myself, again, I believe it is probably a common theme for many of us right now. And by sharing it and sharing the rewrite that I did for it, may somehow play out in what you've seen over the last week, and then ultimately what you're going to see in the future, because the rewrite changes the direction of things. So this is the first one, and hopefully a thread of videos where I will be sharing my personal experience in doing a rewrite of past life regression and a rewrite. So basically this last week, so today is November 25th, I believe, and 2019. And earlier in the week, on the 19th of November, the energy started to shift, and it wasn't a surprise because there's a lot of things going on right now energetically. But on a personal note, I had something very stressful show up that day in regards to career and in that arena of my life. And it lasted for a few days. And usually when things are on the more extreme end emotionally, oftentimes I find that it's not just about this lifetime or a specific circumstance here. It's usually a replay of something from past lives, because it was that intense. So I intended to do a past life regression to see what was replaying and see how it could be rewritten to have the highest level outcome now. So on 11/21, so a few days later, I did finally get a chance to sit down and do the past life regression. And here's what I saw. So again, this is me looking at my own past life to explain more of what was happening for me last week. Okay. So I usually, when I'm doing past life regressions for myself or others, the first thing I ask is approximately how long ago are we looking at? And I got that it was approximately 3,000 years ago, give or take. My guides are very nice to round things off for me, so I don't have to do too much math. So approximately 3,000 years ago, so that's about 1000 BC, is the timeline or the time period that we're looking at. And then I try to see if I can identify a certain location in the world or a certain culture. And I was shown that this is actually on the border between what we now know as France and Italy. So on that borderline, in that area is where this is occurring, 1000 BC. All right, so it opens up with me seeing firelight actually reflecting off of a wall. And I look and I can see that there are men sitting around a fire. It is dark, so but it doesn't look cold. So whatever time of year it would be for it not to be overly cold in that region. But ultimately, I think the fire was more for just to be able to see and have something to commune around. So I see 9 men, 8 of which are seated in a close circle around the fire, and then there's myself. And I am standing, but I'm still also right next to the fire in the circle. And nobody's talking when I first see the scene. And ultimately, everybody apparently is waiting for me to say something. I have I'll describe myself a little bit as far as what I saw that I looked like. I was probably an average size male, Caucasian looking, with dark, maybe black or dark brown hair. I'm gonna say probably 28 to 30 years old. And that actually all of them actually, since we were co-workers, I'll explain more. But ultimately we were all in that age range, maybe mid-20s to mid-30s. Okay. Anyway, so I'm there, everybody's looking at me. It's a very somber mood. We are not there to celebrate anything. In fact, I really got that this was going to be the last time that I was probably going to see, not only were they my colleagues, but they were my best friends as well. So this was a loss for everybody in that group because everybody was going to disperse that night. I don't recall the exact words that I was saying to them, but it had the gist of, it's been real. And I wasn't laughing though. It's been real. You guys have been the best people I could have possibly run into in this life, and great co-workers, and you'll all be missed, and I wish you all well wherever you may end up. And everybody pretty much, they don't really say a whole lot until the end. Everybody kind of gives each other a hug, and off we go. So more details that I'm given, not necessarily in this scene, but where I'm being told by my guides, is that we were actually tax collectors. That was our profession, and we were co-workers. And actually the city in which we were meeting in was the main city in the region, so that's where whatever local government was. That's another reason why we all lived there, because that's where the focal point was. But all of us had our regions that we would go outside of the city and internally to go collect the taxes. And that, for me at least, I had been doing this for at least 10 to 12 years. So, and all of us apparently needed at least a little bit of education to be able to be tax collectors. So we had maybe what would be considered some sort of college degree to be in these positions. But ultimately, that was our profession. And because of the events that I'll go into detail about, we were all having to flee that night and take whatever families we had. Some of us were single, some of us weren't, some of us had kids, some of us didn't. But ultimately, we were all going to have to head for the hills in the middle of the night. This was why we were saying goodbye. So what my guides told me, why we were having to flee, was that we had done some things that we were basically going to get in trouble for, probably the next day. And we knew that we needed to escape during the night. They compared it to what we hear about, whether or not it's true, about Robin Hood and the Merry Men. The idea that for the right reasons, they were doing not so right things, considered criminals and outlaws. The idea of taking from the rich and giving to the poor kind of idea. And what I was told was that in the first several years, it was workable. The job expectations were workable. We had a different ruler at that time, and so things weren't extremely harsh anyway. And so if people couldn't pay their taxes, yes, there were consequences, but it was workable. But after a few years, somebody new came in and everything changed. This person was much more focused on filling the coffers for the city, for themselves, and jacked up the taxes on everybody, including us. We also had to pay our taxes, so this impacted us individually as well. But ultimately, it absolutely impacted the economy of the city and surrounding areas. People weren't making any more money than they had before, but they were being taxed 2-3 times more. And so now our job is to go out and collect again, but now most of the people can't pay the full amount that they owe, or even a good portion of what they owe. And now we're in the position of having to report back if somebody doesn't pay up, and then bad things tended to happen to them. People coming out, losing limbs, I was told, maybe even losing lives if it was really extreme, and losing their homes. So bad things were happening to these people. Everybody was trying to survive, barely getting by, including us. And we didn't like being a part of this. And we were trying to figure, how do we've got to do something. And since all 9 of us were very close, trusted each other completely, a plan was devised along the way that, we take our paper, our journals, whatever it is, back that says, okay, we collected this much and we deposited this much into the coffer. But nobody ever checked up on that to make sure that things were balanced. So after a while, this became an opening to help people, to help the community. And so gradually over time, we started going, okay, you can't pay all of it? Okay, well, we'll just, we'll take care of it, and then just document that we got all of it and then only deposit whatever they could give. People were very thankful. Let me tell you, I'm very thankful for this. And it really, I'm clear, it kept a lot of them out of extreme hardship. So even though we knew we were taking a gamble, we knew we were putting ourselves on the line by doing this. Ultimately, we chose to do this, and it did last for I don't know how many years, but it was working. Everybody was at least getting by. Nobody was thriving and nobody was getting rich, but at least people could feed themselves and had a roof over their heads. And at that point, that was pretty good. So the night that we looked at earlier, where we were meeting around the campfire, or the fire, my understanding was that at the last, with very little notice, we were told that somebody was actually going to come in and do the checks and balances. And we knew that the numbers would be way off. And, we were all a part of why that happened. But we didn't believe that any of us should be the fall guy for it. So ultimately what we chose to do was to leave. Take our families, go away from the area. Definitely need to get away from the area because most likely we would be hunted. but ultimately go to other regions, other areas, and start anew with friends or family that we knew somewhere else. And that's what we did that night. We all packed up our families in various ways and headed towards family members, etc. I won't get into a lot of detail, but ultimately my marriage fell apart because of this. It just disrupted our entire lives, and ultimately I lost a lot more than just my job. And I don't know what happened with all the other guys. There were probably different versions of what happened with them, but it was a tragedy for all of us in some form or another. We really were having to start over completely in an economy in the entire country that wasn't going to be much better anywhere else. So that's what happened in the first version. So once I get the first version and the important pieces out of it, that's when I asked my guides to show me where would be the best place to intervene and change something so that we would get a higher level outcome in the end. So what they showed me was actually something they didn't show me in the beginning, and a lot of times that does happen. I won't get the full picture in the first version. They showed me the same place, only a couple weeks earlier. Again, all of us sitting around this fire. Apparently this is where we met after work a lot to, well, just hang out, but also probably to talk shop about the other things that we were doing that weren't being documented. And basically, this time we are talking and we're bantering and even laughing a little bit. Things are going fairly well. And then I look over at actually our youngest member in the group, who was probably in the early 20s, and he starts talking about something, this new idea, this new thing that's never really been heard of before, that's apparently kind of coming out of France. Something new over there, new idea. And I'm asking for details, and I'm actually having problems opening this up. So I did call my friend who was connected to all that, who happened to be, of course, that young man in that life. I had a feeling that, she was going to have more details for me. I really wanted to hear, what are you talking about? Because apparently whatever he articulated the first time, we didn't truly get the value of it, or we wouldn't have been sitting there 2 weeks later in that circumstance. So when I talked to my friend on the phone and I explained that she in that lifetime had possibly the answer, she said, the only thing I can think of is bread. Bread? What are you talking about? Yeah, bread. I can smell it, she said. And that basically someone in the group or a relative of theirs, and I'm thinking it might even be my friend, because she made bread a couple days later and had been talking about bread. So it could really have been her recipe in that life. Whatever the case is, it was something that I think we knew that we had some really good bread. There was something about the spices, apparently, not spices, herbs, apparently, and maybe the water in the area. Something about it made this bread off the charts, flavor-wise. And apparently that's what we all decided would be something that we might be able to use in some way to change things up, because none of us liked the level of risk we were all taking, but we also didn't want to abandon our posts and then leave everybody else to suffer either. So we were in a dilemma either way. And apparently what she had heard was that somewhere over in France, there were these people who we would probably call today investors that were looking for people with good ideas. And that if it was a good enough idea, they might even front you the money to start the business. So bread was apparently, or at least that particular kind of bread, was apparently our big idea. I saw all 9 of us heading over there on whatever day off we had, took a loaf of that bread with us and went to those investors. And I mean, we pitched our spiel about how the area could benefit from it, and all these people need jobs and good bread, and maybe even export it to other areas, including France. But it was them tasting the bread that absolutely had their eyes go wide open and go, this is the best. This is the best. This will sell. Yes, yes, yes. We came back from that trip with new jobs. We were all going to be management in this new endeavor, and we quit our tax collector jobs immediately, which actually apparently affected that they didn't do the audit after all because they were too busy trying to figure out how to cover those positions. But we did let our old bosses know that we were going to be bringing in a lot of money into the economy through this new endeavor. So they were going to benefit, which as long as they were benefiting, they were great. So apparently we ended up, it might not have started that big, but we ended up having a really big factory there in that city. And I do believe in the other outlying areas, there were smaller versions of that. And this was such a simple idea too, that it didn't take any kind of real education, and even teenagers could work in these factories. So now we've helped these people by giving them jobs. So now they're making more money and can afford whatever taxes they do have to pay. We're also providing food for the people, and even ourselves. We've actually up leveled in our income, actually significantly, by being managers. But we're doing what we wanted to do, and we're doing in the other way. Only this time we don't have this huge risk hanging over our heads that could explode at any time. Therefore, our families don't get blown apart. It was great. I mean, I could see, like my family didn't blow apart. In fact, now I've got 3 kids that weren't there before, and things like that. And, everybody in the group. So nobody's having to run. We get to maintain our close friendships, and we work really well together in this situation too. So it really is a win-win for everybody. Even our ruler was very happy, with how much inflow was coming to them. So what looked like an impossible situation, like there was no way that we were going to be able to help in the way that we wanted to and raise our own lives without having to do something a little crooked because we were living within a crooked system. How do you do something not crooked and get ahead in something that's totally broken? It was looking impossible, right? But with this rewrite, which is what I put in place, I did officially have that be the outcome. Now, because this is my personal reading, this is going to open the doors for me to find my own life purpose. And I have been searching for this for years myself in this life. And basically what I asked myself is, where's my bread? I need to find my bread. There must be something special, something specific that I am being called to do. And this may very well have opened the door, because now I have 3,000 years worth of living my purpose. So it's not just that I got back to where I started from 3,000 years ago. No, with this change, and it changes through time. So immediately, the moment I rewrote it, it affects this current timeline, absolutely. And I've now got 3,000 years of living my purpose, having a happy family even. So that bumps me up even higher vibrationally than I was even when the rewrite originally started 3,000 years ago, if that makes sense. I'm trying to explain kind of a difficult idea, but hopefully you really get that in the end, in this lifetime, it has changed for me and the other 9 men and their families, and really actually everybody in those communities have all up-leveled. just by me doing that one rewrite, and for me. So this has a ripple effect. Ripple effect. So my 9-person group back then found their bread. We found our bread. We found our purpose, what we were really being called to do. And it really, we're already kind of doing it, but this is a whole nother level. And that's where all of us are at right now. That's the point of this. This is why I'm feeling called to tell you about this personal timeline, because I believe all of us are actually being called right now to find our life purpose, to find that special thing that either only you can do or only a few of us can do. Find your niche and then run with it. Where's your bread? That will be the title. Or, well, my bread. Where's my bread? Will be the title of this video. Very powerful. This is what I do. So I don't just do a past life regression and tell you the details, and that's interesting and could make a difference just knowing that. It is the rewrite part of it that makes the difference, that changes everything and stays that way. Unlike some other healing modalities that kind of temporary and old issues can come back, nope, that old timeline does not exist anymore. This is the timeline now on which we live. So that's basically how I do past life regressions for people individually and even on a galactic level. If you're interested in me doing a private past life rewrite, or I also can do current timeline rewrites, you can go to my website at rewritingtheverse.com and you can see the services I offer. And right now I do have a lot of openings, so get in while it's good, because I have a feeling these types of videos are going to actually pull in a whole nother group of people that I wasn't reaching before. And I do love doing the past life regressions, and there's never a dull moment, and everything is so unique. Every situation is so unique. So please come check out the website. Please share, like, and subscribe on this through this particular video if you can. And I do intend on submitting more of these on YouTube, especially if I see people are showing interest in it. So please show me interest if this is something you want me to continue to do. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.